Welcome back, everybody. Today, we have an incredible guest joining us, someone whose own health journey led her to become a beacon of hope for others struggling with chronic illness. Please welcome Heather Sunderland, a board certified functional health coach who overcame 28 years of undiagnosed Lyme disease and mold exposure. Heather's mission is to empower you on your path to reclaiming your health. She specializes in helping those with complex conditions like Lyme disease, CIRS or SIRS, most toxicity, and autoimmune diseases using the power of regenerative nutrition and detoxification. Get ready to be inspired as Heather shares her insights on how to reduce pain and inflammation, boost energy, and restore your body's natural healing abilities. Welcome in, Heather. Why don't you tell everybody where you're calling in from, and really excited about today's show.
Hi, Scott. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I am in Buckeye, Arizona. I'm in farm country
Oh my
west of
gosh,
Phoenix. So it's 49 degrees here.
49 degrees. So, what the average temperature in that area? What is it like during the winter time there?
Um, about 35 in the morning,
Oh,
and yesterday went up to 72, which was a little warm. Normally about 64 in the winter,
ah,
which is chilly because it's a
yeah,
very low humidity, very, very chilly with the low humidity. It feels like 40 when it's in the 60s.
yeah, sure. So, tell everybody who has joined us as a co-guest today.
This is Jasmine. She is my neighbor's dog, and I'm dog sitting, and she's just being a little extra clingy. I'm
It's
like
okay.
grandma.
I love it. She's so cute. So, for those that are listening, it's really cute, little white. I don't know what kind of dog that is, but
She's a Bichon.
oh my
She's
God, she's so
white.
cute. Look at that little face.
I've been watching her since she's 6 weeks old. She's 2.
She's got little bows in her ears too, which is so
Oh,
really.
oh, her mom matches like she has outfits that she wears, and she's so excited to put on her outfits. I've never seen a dog like to get dressed up. It's
Oh, legitimately? I thought you
hysterical.
were joking, like, because most dogs hate that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, right? That is
No,
so
if you
funny.
hang out her dress, she'll like dance and want to put it on and get all excited.
Oh my
It's really
God,
funny.
that's crazy.
I
I love that so much. Well, she's adorable. She's
Yeah,
adorable.
she
So she
is.
may steal the
She
show
is.
today, right? From both of us, right?
Yes.
So your story, like I opened up, your story overcoming 28 years of undiagnosed Lyme disease and mold exposure is incredibly inspiring. Can you share a bit about your journey and how that whole series that you went through led you to become a functional health coach?
So you want to hear my story of
Let's hear
being
the
sick,
story and then
healing?
yeah, let's hear, yeah, lead into it.
Okay.
Yep.
I had lots of health issues growing up,
Yep.
asthma, sinus infections, but it wasn't until I was 30 that it really started to impact my daily life. And I had chronic pain,
Yep.
and they labeled it fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, immune dysfunction. And at 35, I was totally disabled. I stopped working. I had been a dietitian and a diabetic educator. And really, as the years went on, the pain got worse, neuropathy got worse, just more and more labels of illnesses and diseases. And it wasn't until I was 52, so it was actually 22 years that they finally diagnosed me with chronic Lyme, that I had been
Mm.
sick since I was 30. Never had a tick bite, right? But I lived in Pennsylvania, lots of ticks, had dogs, ticks on me all the time. Never had the red rash.
Mhm.
But once we treated, I went through Herxing or die off, and we treated herbally. And I had improved, but I still had issues with standing and walking. And I really didn't know what was going on. And we moved to Arizona because I had so much trouble walking. My vertebrae would go out of alignment. I was at the chiropractor 3 times a week. We didn't understand why. The chiropractor was just doing it to keep me functional somewhat.
Mhm.
Had a spinal cord stimulator implanted because I had so much nerve pain even after we treated the Lyme. Um, and moved to Arizona into a 1-story house because I couldn't do steps. And there I entered health coaching school, I think, hoping to find answers as to why I was so sick. And I just got sicker and sicker. I actually went to school in a zero gravity chair. I could not
Oh
sit
my gosh.
upright at a desk because my vertebrae would go out of alignment on normal furniture. So just crazy symptoms, numbness, tingling, just irritable bladder, just long lists of labels,
Mhm.
insomnia, but the nerve pain was a really big one. And my diet got down to 10 foods. I was diagnosed with SIBO, and I had a lot of knowledge about health, right? I was eating healthy, I was eating clean, I was eating organic. And a friend, an acquaintance in health coaching school said, Heather, I think you're dealing with mold toxicity or SIRS. I'm like, what's SIRS? And she said, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, which is really just the toxic bucket in the body
Mhm.
overflowing and causing a host of issues with all your different systems in the body. So I went and I asked her, what do I do? And she gave me some info and I had blood work done. It confirmed I had SIRS. The next step was check your home for mold. I'm like, I'm in the desert in a
Right,
new
right.
build
Yeah.
west of Phoenix, dry. We tested the home not right away because nobody explained to me that a new build could have mold. A friend actually walked into my house and had symptoms. And I'm like, okay, I guess that means I have to test. We tested and we had two building material molds in our home, and one was stacky, the one that nobody likes to see in their home. Um, we did some remediation, but we didn't ever find the source of the building material mold. There were no water leaks or anything like that, but it's very common for buildings to be built with wood that gets contaminated or it's already contaminated with mold, or when they
Mm.
frame the house, it rains and
Mhm.
you get
Just
mold.
trapped. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started treating with a doctor, a functional a naturopathic doctor who knew mold and Lyme. Nothing shifted in 6 months of treatment, not a thing, other than I knew I was detoxing because I felt crappy. Um, and then I found a regenerative approach, which was around eating food and alkalizing the body and
Mhm.
restoring the gut and just sort of doing everything at once instead of targeting, binding or healing the gut. And within 3 days, I went from 10 foods to 11 foods. And every 3 days, my diet was expanding. And yes, I had symptoms in the process of healing. I had symptoms the entire
Sure.
process, but things just kept shifting. At 3 months, my brain fog had lifted. At 6 months, I had been using assistive devices to walk and stand. I didn't need the assistive devices. I'm 23 months. They told me I didn't have Lyme, mold, SIRS, and a long list of labels. And now I'm a little over 4 years out. My body's still releasing pathogens,
Mhm.
not so much toxins. I think I've detoxed everything there is to detox, but the approach I used was about creating an internal environment that the body can get rid of what doesn't belong, and it's all those pathogens that cause inflammation and toxins and pain. Um, so I mean, now I can cook, clean, work. I didn't work from the age of 35 to 56. I mean, I was coaching while I was sick and healing. So it's just been, I'm trying to shorten a very long journey,
Mhm.
but it's been a crazy, crazy ride. A lot of symptoms on the ride, but I was always seeing shifts in my ability to walk, stand. If you had met me 4 years ago, walking and standing, I could stand for about 2 minutes. My vertebrae would go out of alignment. We didn't understand that was the inflammation
Mhm.
from toxicity, really, what was causing it. Um, and so I was just so limited. Couldn't sit on furniture. My vertebrae would go out. It was just crazy, crazy symptoms, and the diet being so small. And now I eat healthy. I can eat anything I want. I don't react to anything. I just choose to eat very, very healthy, higher alkaline, but not all alkaline. But I ate high alkaline as part of my healing.
Yeah, people that's very interesting. I some of the coaching that I do because the first thing that I have in the morning when I get up, I mean, I have not experienced what you have, but the vast majority of disease in the body is due to inflammation, and most disease can't live in an alkalized state. So that completely tracks. And on the cellular level, I want to kind of reflect back to something you said earlier in this conversation. The fibromyalgia that you were diagnosed with, was it truly fibromyalgia? Was it? Yeah, that's what I wanted to
No, and
see. Was it a misdiagnosis? Yep.
I truly believe people who are labeled with fibromyalgia by traditional medicine, basically they're acidic, they're toxic, they're
Yeah.
inflamed. I because I've had patients, clients with fibromyalgia, we can reverse it. But traditional medicine, conventional medicine isn't trained on
Mm.
reversing illness. They're trained in supporting symptoms, symptom management, unless you have like you're in a massive car accident.
Right.
If you have a chronic condition, they're managing the symptoms so that you can feel functional. But all that managing led me to be on 20 drugs. So I had a lot. I was on 20 drugs for 20 years. I had a lot my body needed to let go of and release toxin wise because the more I was taking, the more I was adding to the toxic burden
Mhm.
in my body. And I didn't understand that, at that time. And I came off every prescription, every medication they had put me on.
And that makes perfect sense. So there's an alignment as far as like when I have clients come to me and they say, I ask them what their goal is. Hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, whatever. And they'll say, how fast? I said, well, you can really only healthily lose about 5 pounds a month, so we'll go through that conversation like, whatever. I say, listen, how long have you been this way?
Yeah.
And let's say 25, 30 years. I'm like, well, here's two things I can promise you. First, it's not going to take us 25 years to get out of it. It's going to take time though, because it took you 25 years to eat your way into this. But the other side of that is going to take time. You got to just dedicate to it. So it makes sense also that you are still releasing toxicity pathogens and stuff, right? Because the it's all this years of accumulation, right?
Right. Well, and I think too, the approach I use is about creating an internal environment
Hmm.
that we're alkalizing so that things can't thrive
Yeah.
in the body. We're not alkalizing like, the stomach acid, but the rest of the
Hmm.
body. So I'm just amazed. I'm not taking stuff to kill parasites, but around the full moon, I had a lot of parasite die off. And sometimes you see it, and sometimes it's just my symptoms that I know it's
Hmm.
parasite die off around the full moon. But it's crazy. But that's what you want. You want the body to get rid of what doesn't belong there and what's not
Yeah.
serving it.
Yeah. And I think too, I think about it. Yeah. Talk about this quite a bit on the cellular level. I tell clients all the times, like, you don't understand your cells. If we can bring it to new day technology, they're sending text messages to each other all day long. Hey, Scott's not doing this. I need this over here. This is what's happening. I need you to do this. And how much we are puppets to the cells in our body. And so you got to treat them right so they treat you right and give them what they need. And we know when new cells are birthed into a unhealthy, toxic situation, they're fighting for the life from the beginning. They then can't go and take care of the things that they need to take care of because they're fighting right from birth, right? So when you have that healthy state that you're talking about, that internal healthy homeostasis as much as we possibly can, they can say, okay, we've got inflammation over here. Let's go take care of that. I'm not like immediately just scrapping, the minute I come out. So I figured when you said fibrosis, I said, I bet she was misdiagnosed. This is a whole misdiagnosis. And my wife has been diagnosed with sarcoidosis. And what's interesting, because I've been, a nutritionist since my 20s, I say, listen, I'm telling you, I know it's autoimmune, and I'm not discounting the fact that it's not a legitimate thing, but it's autoimmune diseases are based on inflammation. And if it is the case that it's something to do with your body, well, let's try to combat that as much as we possibly can by the foods that we eat and the foods we don't eat. So we know the three biggest causes of inflammation with food intake are going to be dairy, wheat, and meat products. So let's eliminate those and just see what happens. Let's just
Yeah.
try. It's not going to, can you do it for a few weeks and see? And it's amazing. Cut back her cheese. I mean, she doesn't eat meat other than, seafood. I'm completely plant based. And cut the dairy back, went to oat milk, completely changed. Like she was the same, couldn't walk some of the times. I have to pick her up and carry her to the restroom. Like it's amazing, right? Now, doesn't mean that the sarcoidosis may not still be there,
Right.
but we
Right.
have dramatically decreased these symptoms from it by removing the inflammatory foods
Right.
into the body.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and food is such a missing piece. I mean, for me, I was eating healthy. It was the eating regeneratively farmed superfood shakes
Mm,
that really, right, nourished my cells, and I could absorb it because it was a liquid. I didn't have to chew it because I was down to 10 foods. There was so little I could eat. For me, that was like 80% of my healing, which
mhm,
nobody in the world of chronic illness or mold or Lyme, nobody talks about diet. Or if they do, it's just like eat carnivore, eat paleo.
mhm.
It's not. eat alkaline. And
Mhm.
alkaline is what really also you're eating more fruits and vegetables help with detox. And
Mhm.
so if we're toxic, and most of us, even if we're eating clean, we don't realize how much we're exposed to and the air and the water. I live off a golf course
Oh,
in
yeah.
Arizona, so I didn't even think about it until I was on this journey dealing with an illness that was a toxin illness that they're spraying the grass with
Yeah.
chemicals, right? And so even if I'm sitting outside, you want to go. Even if I'm sitting outside, right, the wind is blowing
Mhm.
those chemicals, right into my backyard and, I'm getting it. So we're just
Yeah.
exposed to so much that we don't realize it. But that toxicity, heavy metals, all of that mold exposure that people don't even know about, they're being exposed to mold sometimes. Most of the time, people don't know. They've been exposed at work, at school, wherever.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that creates inflammation in the body. So a
Yeah, it's a
lot of
double
times when
whammy,
people
right? Yeah, it's a double whammy. You not only the foods that you're taking in, but you have environmental factors too. And, of course,
right,
obviously, the closer you
well,
live to cities and like your situation, golf courses and things like that, you're
right.
exponentially increasing the opportunity for that to be introduced.
Well, I mean, 90% illness is 90% environmental, according to Dr. McMahon, who does a lot of stuff on mold, and 50% of chronic illnesses actually can be rooted in exposure to mold because
Mm.
mold's
It's everywhere.
toxic mold,
Yeah,
right?
toxic. Yeah.
Toxic mold. And most of the time people don't see it or smell it.
Mhm.
So that's part of my mission is to educate people about that piece. My house, you couldn't see it, you couldn't smell it. It was a new build. And I grew up my whole entire life in homes that had mold, and I didn't know it.
Yeah. So I have 2 follow-up questions. We'll do these. So I'm gonna plant them so we remember just in case we lose. I wanna talk about this regenerative shake you're talking about, and then also
Mhm.
talk about how people go about, uh, you know, getting tested for mold. So talk about the shake first, because that's right in my world. I love that kind of stuff, and I think particularly the audience that listens to this show are they're coming for many things, but it's the health aspect, how we can feel better and operate better in our space.
Right.
Talk about that.
So I just found a company that other health coaches were using that was organic. But what was unique about it is it was the organic farms were 100 miles, had been organic for 30 years and
Mm,
100 miles from industry. We have an organic regenerative farm in Arizona about 10 minutes from me. It's about 2 miles from major Phoenix highway.
mhm,
Never thought about that stuff. So we can get an organic apple at the store, but that doesn't tell us anything about the soil. And regenerative farms, the soil, they follow certain permaculture practices where they're rotating the crop, they're remineralizing the soil, so the nutrient density of the soil is higher, so that nutrition goes into the plant, and then the nutrient density of
yeah,
whatever's growing on that soil is higher. And only 1% of the farms in the US are regenerative farms. But if people can find, right, a regenerative farm to buy their produce, they're going to get much higher quality, and then you're buying local, so it's fresh and you're not losing nutrition. So this company that I affiliated with and I ended up using on my healing journey, the farms are organic, so 100 miles from industry, and then they're regeneratively farmed. And one of their
mhm,
big farms is in Utah. So it's
mm,
like 300 miles from industry, and it's an old lake bed in Utah. That's about 90 feet of topsoil and sediment and things left over from the lake bed,
mhm,
but they wind dehydrate the food the day they pick it into powders, and then you know it gets made into different blends. So as a coach, I use these regenerative superfoods for people that I feel it'll be a good fit for them, and they're just different options, grain free sprouted grains,
mhm,
just depending on where people are in the healing journey and what they can handle. I was so sick. Normal dose is like a 6 tablespoons in a shake twice a day. I could only handle a tablespoon twice a day. Took me a year to get to the full dose, but
wow,
3 months my brain fog lifted. 6 months I was, walking without a cane, without a walker. So the dose doesn't really matter, right? I always start people who are chronically ill on a lower dose because they're going to detox because it's things
Yeah.
like spirulina, wheatgrass,
Mhm,
chlorella, things you just don't normally eat.
mhm,
But really, really tasty, but it's so much easier to absorb and digest,
mhm.
when it's a liquid, especially on people who have a compromised gut like I did. Um, Looking at the ingredients, I was like, I can't eat these foods, but I knew having been a dietitian, I could drink it and that I
Mhm.
would probably do okay drinking it.
I think when you said so much there, but in Utah, the regenerative farm and the lake bed, I immediately thought, man, imagine all the amazing macronutrients and
Yeah,
micronutrients
yeah.
and minerals and stuff that are being absorbed in those plants. Like this is thousands and thousands of years old, like really high nutritionally dense, you know.
Well, and people don't realize, and I don't shop local typically just because
Mhm.
of when the farms are open here. I'm not around to go to the farmers markets. But you think about it, like an apple today or carrots today do not have the same nutrition that they did
No,
50 years ago.
because the
And
depletion of
then
the soil, and then too, the other side of that too is
one is shipping too. Shipping, right?
right.
Shipping products takes 3 weeks. I was just watching something about how much nutrition and vitamin C decreases when you ship something over
Yeah.
time. And I thought, oh my gosh, we have all these things sort of going against us,
You
with
know,
environmental
there's
exposure.
a far I wanna say it's in Washington State, maybe California. There's this agreement that it's the goofiest thing. We're shipping apples from there to Europe to do some sort of processing to the apples, then back to the United States. Like,
Mhm.
it makes
Oh,
no sense. It makes no sense that we're doing this, but some kind of agreement they made some back, it's a money thing. It's always about money that happens. But so, and I don't know, you probably know this. I don't know. I don't remember the stats or the data on this. How many years, like from a traditional farm aspect, that they have to be non-traditional before they can then become organic? What is that? I forget. It's not even that long. It's not as long as you think.
I don't remember the farms this company, I don't remember that
Yeah.
detail. The farms this company uses, they have to be organic 30 years before
Yeah.
they'll use them to grow. So they don't always use their own farm. They use local farmers, but they have to meet those requirements that
So,
they've
and
been
that's the
organic.
point I think I was getting at. I want to say, and I could be like people listening and watching, do your own damn research on this, but it's 4 or 6 years or something like that. It's not that long of a time. Well, you got to think the soil has not really had time to truly recover from the pesticides and all that kind of stuff. So, the fact that you have that large buffer, 30, like that is significantly, the soil can do its thing and replenish and do what it needs to do. So,
I just
how
found
do you, go ahead? Yep.
no, I just found I could give people like the superfood protocol, and I didn't even have to know what was wrong with them, and they improved.
Yeah.
They didn't always heal if they weren't willing to do the work,
Hmm.
but because they were nourishing the cell and it was gently detoxing them and it was alkalizing them, which was bringing down inflammation and starting to starve pathogens, like people had really amazing shifts.
Of course.
Um, and then if you increase the healthy food you're eating alongside of doing that, but it's all a process. We all want it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yesterday, people look at my journey and they think, "Oh, well, you're well." I'm like, "Well, it's been 8.5 years since I was diagnosed with Lyme or 9, so it wasn't a quick, it wasn't a quick journey. We all want it.
Yeah, and I mean, the journey starts today, right? So talk about, I'm curious about the, how people could find, well, first of all, you probably have a product that you're dosing and
Yeah,
recommending.
it's on my website. Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm
what is that
definitely
called?
affiliated with it.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we link this in the show notes, but what is it called?
The company is called Purium. It's a company based out of California. Um,
And
yeah, it's
if
an
people
amazing,
like,
everything's whole food. They have a line of like immune support that's whole
mhm,
food, zinc, A, C, D, and E. They have whole food, but no additives, no binders, no,
it's
n- you
just
know,
food. It's just food.
it's
Like,
just food, or there's some products that have some herbs, but
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and organic or regeneratively farmed. Yeah.
So, we'll put this is typically do this a little bit later in the show, but we'll mention it again. If people utilize the link in the show description, they get any kind of discount for signing up with you? What kind of thing do they, is there any kind of
It's
advantage? Yeah.
yeah, there's a 25% off
Okay.
the price, yeah, if you're using my coupon code, and of course, if somebody's ordering through me, I wanna help them pick
Sure.
what product is good for them
Perfect.
because, yeah, everybody's
Will they
different.
get, I don't want to put you on the spot, but what do you typically do? Like if somebody watches the show and they want to contact, of course, we'll have the contact information for you. Do you prefer them to have some, at least some form of consultation with you first before they order product? You prefer
I
that?
mean, I'm a health coach at heart, so
Yeah.
I love that, but I mean, I do discovery calls, and if somebody's looking at a product on my site and it's not like they need a health coaching session,
Yeah.
in that discovery call, I can say, "Hey, this is what I think will be
Sure.
best," based on what you're doing. But if they need health coaching and they're dealing
That's
with a
different.
chronic
Yeah.
condition, I have to be careful,
Sure.
because I'm liable too to not take in the whole picture of what's going on with somebody.
Sure.
People reach out all the time saying, "Well, what should I take for this?" And I'm really realizing it's sort of dangerous to do that because I need to look at what's going on with their toxic loads, their pathogen loads. What are their symptoms? What are they struggling with? And I don't want to do someone a disservice.
Yeah, because you got to know the why before we can apply the how to fix, right? It's like a doctor's not going to, they want to see you and examine you. An attorney needs to know the whole story. Like that's the whole thing. Because you don't want to always have every conversation with this big, huge disclaimer. It's like, hey, let's at least have a call to see. And then if you feel
Yeah.
like that you need more one-on-one help, then let's talk about that. So it just makes sense. So that's beautiful. We'll make sure we link that up because I like for me, I again a very alkalized diet, plant-based, all that kind of stuff. But and I have a brand sponsorship deal with another company. I won't say it here because I don't want, they may conflict here, but I'm really interested in that product because I can add that to my daily intake.
Oh,
The
well,
regenerative stuff, like that's huge for me. I love, and then you're supporting local farmers, like all that's so
right.
fantastic, right?
No, no, I agree. And I had to eat. I ate much stricter than vegan to heal.
Yeah, 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 for sure. So, how does one go about? Uh, and this, I know this, but this is for the audience because there's going to be people coming into this not realizing a couple of things. This kind of a multi-pronged question, so we'll try to step through this and as best we can. You're more qualified, and you'll know how to answer this. So, okay, how does somebody potentially know that there's a potentiality that they have a mold kind of issue that needs to be treated? So that's kind of one part of the question. How does one get tested for that? Are there any particular special place they can your regular doctor test for that? And then we'll see where those your answers
Where
lead
those
us to the next question. Yeah.
Well, I anybody who has a chronic condition or autoimmune disease, I always recommend ruling out mold where you live or work
Hmm.
because 70% of the time we don't see it. And if you do see it, or there are water stains, or you smell something, that's not a good sign. Um, so testing the home is a great place to start because, like I said, 50% of the homes in the US or more have water damage, and most of the time
Hmm.
it's never seen.
So,
Uh,
don't mean to cut you there. So, are these tests that you can, again, for the audience,
do it
purchase
yourself. Yeah, so
Amazon?
I
Like, where
would
do you get these
recommend,
tests? Yeah.
and we can put it in the show notes. It's called
Yep.
Envirobiomics is the
Okay.
company. There's two companies that do it, Mycometrics and Envirobiomics. It's a dust cloth PCR
Hmm.
test for 36 different molds.
Wow.
29 are like toxic indoor molds and 7 are outdoor molds, called an ERMI, Environmental Readiness Mold Index.
Hmm.
It wasn't really set up to like test homes for mold. It was sort of comparing homes and their mold levels, but it has become very much a standard when we can't see mold. It's a great place to start. It will not tell you where the mold is.
Hmm.
It'll just tell somebody if they have a problem. And everybody who's ever come to me for coaching, um, they've always been in water damage. I mean, that's my
Sure.
specialty, but sometimes they come to me, they have cancer, they have a label like fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, And when I start asking questions about the home or how old it is, or if there's been a water leak,
They're
and
like,
we
"What's that got to
test.
do with it?" They're like, "What does this got to do with it?" Yeah.
Yeah, and I was the same way. I didn't know anything about it until my own journey 4 years ago, and then it was like going into this major rabbit hole. So it's a great place to start because a lot of people, if you get an inspector, they'll come in and do an air test. If
Right.
mold spores are heavy, they test the air in the middle of the room. If the mold's behind a wall by a window, they're
Mhm.
not gonna pick up the mold. And I just had a client do that. He's sick in the house. When he goes outside, he feels better. When he comes back in, he starts to have all these symptoms, and he had an air test. And I was like, I told you not to do an air test. So, I mean, I don't know if they'll retest again, but an air test is if there's mold on an air test, it's not a good sign at all.
Yeah,
Um,
that means it's significantly out,
Really
right? Yeah,
high.
yeah.
Yeah, really high. But the do-it-yourself starter is the ERMI, and you're collecting dust from throughout the house or through baseboards.
Mhm,
You need to have, dust on the cloth, and then
mhm.
you send it off to their lab and they analyze it.
So you're
Uh,
physically taking that throughout each room and
Throughout,
dusting things
right,
off. Got you. It's not something you
right. So
just
you
lay
don't
down and wait. You're actually uh,
No, because when people do those, like, plate tests, it's just like an
mhm,
air test when they buy
right.
those agar plates, and then they freak out when they see mold growing, but you have to send it off to be analyzed
Yeah.
to see, but it's again, it like air testing, it misses an awful lot,
Mhm,
but people do it because it's, a lot less expensive, and ERMI's $240, to do, and if people have, budget, they can do the 5 most dangerous water molds called a Hurts
mhm.
Me Too, and it's 140. But if people
But,
have the
when you
money,
compare that to your health and then you think about I just think about how many people I see in line at Starbucks, like, every day. The
yeah,
Starbucks is $7. You know what I'm saying? Like, even for a black coffee at Starbucks, I think is like $5. Like, can you not invest in your health a little bit to just to make sure, it's crazy to me how people will
right, a lot of
prioritize things like that, you know? Is that something they order directly through the site, or can they get that, like, on Amazon or something like that?
No, it has to be through Envirobiomics. I
Gotcha.
can give you the link,
Yep.
for sure to put in.
We'll put it in the
It's
show
and
notes.
I'm not affiliated with it, but it
Mhm,
is very much a standard in the industry as a starting place. If you already see signs of water damage, then you may wanna have an inspector come in, but
mhm,
if somebody has chronic conditions or a long list of labels, asthma,
mhm,
50% of the time
mhm.
rooted in mold. I had asthma since I was 3, my whole life gone. Didn't even know
Wow,
that was possible, but I had to
wow,
detox the mold and the mycotoxins out of my body.
wow. So, okay, we get the test back and we find that we have mold. Then what?
Well, to get better, if you're living in mold, it's looking at what's the level. No home has no mold, right?
Right.
That's not reality. It's low levels of toxic mold.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, and do you react to the levels you're being exposed to? Because most of the time when I'm seeing people, they're in a home, they're reacting to it.
mhm.
So it's about getting the levels low enough that your body and your immune system is not negatively responding to that.
So air purifiers like the high end, like if you had those throughout the house, would that help mitigate
It helps,
some of
but
that?
it doesn't typically deal with the mycotoxins. Mold
Mhm,
gives off a lot of different things, right? It
mhm,
gives off VOCs, it gives off mycotoxins. There can be bacteria and endotoxins from mold and water damage. So it'll help with the VOCs, it may help with actual mold, but it doesn't deal with the mycotoxins. And the mycotoxins are what are really cause that systemic inflammation and brain inflammation. So it's like a temporary, it's a
mhm.
help to bring down the load in the home, but you have to deal with the source if
Yeah,
people are in moderate to high levels of toxic mold to fully restore the health. Most people will get maybe better, and some people can't even get better in toxic mold, and that's why I'm sort of hesitant to make suggestions. People
sure.
will call me and say, "Yeah, well, can I
Mhm,
take this binder?" I'm like,
yeah.
if they're in mold, like, you don't typically take a binder, and the body has to be prepared to pull out toxins. We have
Mhm,
to support the pathways.
mhm.
So just to give a one-word answer
Sure.
in a
Yeah.
situation, I don't wanna, create more
Understood.
havoc and
Yeah.
more symptoms.
Understood. So I had a friend, like, this is interesting. You talked about brain inflammation. It didn't connect to me. I mean, until now, I know that he went through a mold kind of situation a few years ago. This is a guy, I won't name him. He's somebody that many people would know. He's very high profile. And I remember when he first started complaining about having these headaches and feeling sick and ill and like didn't know. I mean, this was like, it was going on for like 3 years. He was constantly, and then he got to like where, like you, he's like, bro, I can't even, we got to cancel the event. I can't get out of the bed. I feel
Yeah,
like I'm dying. He goes, I don't know
yeah.
what it is.
What's going on?
And off the cuff, I said, man, dude, I've heard that people like mold can make you feel that way. Like, do you have, like, I didn't know, I'm not like you, I'm not educated in that. I said, do you have any mold in your house that you know of? Like, if you had any water damage lately, like something, like, it sounds like to me, you got in some kind of toxic environment. Like you need to wear a hazmat suit or something. Something's going on. He goes, man, I don't have mold. And I said, I don't know how you get tested for that, but it sounds like to me you're having some type of environmental thing, right? And sure enough, he got tested. But he was like hospitalized because this brain, his brain stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well,
he
it causes Alzheimer's. I mean, you can actually do a certain kind of MRI called a
Mhm.
neuroquant, and it causes Alzheimer changes in the brain, the inflammation. I
Makes
mean,
sense.
I had those symptoms. I just never did the test, but I had Alzheimer's kind of symptoms. I couldn't sit on my computer and figure out even how to move
Mhm.
around the screen, and I didn't understand what was wrong. But just know it can be other things, other just mold.
Yeah,
It could be chemicals in the home or
sure.
the right. All of that adds to the toxic
Combined.
bucket in the body. And our homes today are so tightly built
Yeah.
that I'm in a new home. They actually put something in to have some airflow because they're so tightly built so that if there's off gassing of chemicals and paint and furniture and you have mold, it's not leaving the home.
Because
So I mean things.
everything in your home is VOCs. Even the stuff you get that's low, it's still
Mhm.
right. So you could, if everything in your home was low, you combine all of those together, well, you have high. So you got to get it out, right?
Right,
So,
right. No, it's crazy, but once they know that you have to address the home, and
yep.
that for most people takes time, right? It's a big decision to test. It's overwhelming, especially if you're not feeling good, and then to find out your house is making you sick, and then deciding whether to stay in the home or to remediate. Those are all
Mhm.
very difficult decisions for people. But then it's about supporting the body
Yeah.
and opening up the detox and drainage pathways. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Um, she's just being
Bring her back in.
clingy. She's clingy,
She's back.
um, and wanting to move around and walk on the computer. And nourishing the body and alkalizing the body and gently detoxing. But also, a lot of people don't address other pathogens. And when people have mold, they have parasites, they have higher viral and bacterial loads.
Mhm.
So I always address bringing down the whole entire toxic bucket, heavy metals, all of it. Not
Mhm.
People can be very focused on just mold and mycotoxins.
Mhm.
And then people get better, but they're not truly,
Mhm.
their health isn't restored and
Mm.
something comes along and it tips their bucket. You were just driving me nutty. She wants to walk on the computer.
Yeah, it's okay. She's so cute.
Yeah, she is a cutie.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, can you share a story of a client that maybe was kind of your the most ill type client and walk into like and how they progressed and the challenges of that and where they are now? I mean, obviously, you don't have to share
Yeah.
names or anything like
Um,
that, but I'm
yeah,
curious.
I've had a lot of very ill clients. I was probably the sickest, but I have clients who are still in mold, and those are the ones who don't get better, but they're all so different. One of my early clients was um, he was a adventurer. He was a lawyer who had chronic inflammatory response syndrome from mold and loved to ice climb and hike. And very common in mold and SIRS to have upper cervical instability, which is something I had where you don't stay in alignment, but upper cervically. Um, and he couldn't ice climb, he couldn't hike, he was on
Yeah.
medical leave as a lawyer. And I mean, pretty quickly, a few months out, he was back to climbing. He wasn't climbing 12, 15 hours a day like he wanted to. He'd go out and climb for an hour, and it just gradually increased. It's been 2 years or more we've been working together, and he doesn't have SIRS, he doesn't have mold. He's
Wow.
back to work as a lawyer. He was doing crazy ice climbing stuff a while ago,
Mhm.
before he was fully healed, back out there 12 hours
Yeah.
a day, just sort of an adrenaline junkie. That was the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. Um, but everybody's story is so different. Those people with Lyme, there's like, I definitely some more layers to peel away, but
Mhm.
have many people with Lyme and mold, who start out, they can't work, they're sick, they're disabled. Most, all of them were living in mold and didn't know it. So
Mhm.
in the Lyme community, if people don't assess that, you know, it's, it's critical,
Yeah.
to get better. And so I have a gal in my early days of coaching, she had Lyme and she's like, we don't have mold. We don't have mold tested, very, very high levels of mold. They remediated, and she just got better and better and better. Um, Works part-time now. But again, people don't realize how many layers there are to peel away.
Mhm.
So people may not be sick, but they still may have some symptoms because pathogens are leaving. And I I mean, last this whole week, everybody I've coached, they're just like tired. They're
Yeah.
tired of the process. And I'm like, I totally get it.
So that's what's interesting about it too, is I think people feel like that's normal, right? Tiredness, feeling that way is just normal. And although, like you said, they may not have the high sensitivity that maybe some people have to the mold and these things we're talking about, they're still being impacted by it. It's kind of like I say that I know that I don't have an issue like my wheats that I eat are sprouted, but if I eat something that's not sprouted wheat,
Mhm.
I don't have a noticeable necessary issues with it, but I know something on the cellular level, my body is not jiving with that. So it's going
Right.
to show up in other ways potentially, that I may not connect back to that. So I think that's what it is. People have accepted that well, this is just what you feel like when you are normal, but it's
Mhm.
not. We've got
No,
something else.
but I was actually referring to people not liking that the process takes
Oh,
time
I
of
see what you're
healing.
saying.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Sorry.
yeah, all my clients this week were just like, "I just wanna be done," and I'm like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's a bit of a roller coaster ride, the healing journey, but
sure.
I had fatigue the whole healing journey because my body was releasing so
Yeah,
much garbage, right?
yeah.
I was detoxing constantly for like 4 years. And I wasn't forcing it. It just sort of started
Mhm,
to happen on its own. But I agree with you. Like, it's not normal to
mhm.
feel tired all the time unless you're in a process of healing.
Right.
It is normal to have ups and downs in energy level based on what your
Mhm.
body's trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So what do you think are the some misconceptions around Lyme disease, SIRS, and mold toxicity? What are some of those common misconceptions?
A lot of people think, well, with mold, if they get out of the house, they'll
Mhm.
just be fine, and they don't understand that those toxins are in their body, and a
It's
quarter
already
of the
taken up
population.
residence in the body. You got to
Yeah,
take it. Yeah,
yeah, and a quarter of the population genetically struggles to detox Lyme waste products or biotoxins, and a quarter struggles to detox molds mycotoxins, and I
Mhm.
had both genetics, so those tend to be the people who are sicker, so you just get out of the environment, it's not enough to get better. You may feel better because 'cause you're not being exposed, but you still have it
It
in your
helps, but
body.
you didn't
Right.
address the root issue, like you're referring back to what you talked about at the beginning,
Yeah.
the root issue of that. So speaking of the, how did you mention how you were exposed to like the Lyme disease? How did that come into play for you? Where did that
I'm
get introduced?
I mean, I had 2 dogs. They were in bed with us. I lived in
Mhm,
Pennsylvania, like top 3 in the US for ticks.
mhm,
So, I mean, I remember we always had ticks on us. I don't so I started to have daily symptoms of
mhm,
what would be called I call Lyme at 30.
mhm,
We didn't test for Lyme till I was 52.
mhm,
Um, but that's when I remember getting, you know, really having chronic pain that was constantly moving, and
mhm.
chronic fatigue and all of that.
Wow. Gosh, and I think about, man, you and I need to we need to work. I'm going to be referring some clients to you because there are things now that I think back to past conversation that are probably more likely mold. I mean, Tennessee has we have a lot of ticks and things here as well, but um, man, I bet that a big majority of those are mold or Lyme disease related.
Well, and you know what's a little crazy that I don't know, have you heard of kinesiology or applied
Yeah,
kinesiology? So
absolutely.
I do kinesiology, and
Okay.
I can when I meet people on a discovery call, I will actually do kinesiology and
Mhm,
muscle test the toxic load, viral load, bacterial load, mold load, heavy metal, parasite load.
mhm,
And it's just a system I came up with, like 0 to 10, 10 being the highest. But if I see people's loads are all in the nines, like I can
mhm,
see what's the biggest issue. Nobody ever comes to me with loads that are low. I recently met someone who owns a health clinic. Wasn't a doctor, but he's an entrepreneur. We muscle tested his loads and they were like twos. And I'm like, I never see anybody with loads of twos because everybody I'm seeing is sick. They get down there as they're healing.
mhm.
But he reached out recently and their loads, his and his wife's, were six, sevens, eights. And I thought, what's going on? And I said, anything new in your living change? He goes, we just moved into a new house. And I said, was it new to you?
Mm,
Or is it an older house? He goes, it's a new house to us, but it's like, I don't know, 7 to 10 years old. He goes, ever since we've been in the house, we've all been sick. And my
wow,
wife was sick for 6 weeks, just couldn't get rid of it. And I'm like, it's really starting to sound like water damage. I said, because all of your loads have come up. I had muscle tested him back in the summer, and so the
wow,
next step was for them to test the house. And he goes, come to think of it, I think there's some, mildewy kind of smell in the house. But his daughter as well was having symptoms. So
wow.
we haven't gotten the results of the testing yet, but the kinesiology for me is very, very helpful
Mhm,
um, to assess, get a picture without spending a ton of money
mhm,
on testing in terms of where somebody is, and we sort of can monitor that coming down as people are improving.
mhm. So, are there, as we're kind of talking through this, I know you've got this recommendation we're going to link up about the regenerative shake and those kind of things, but just in general, are there any specific foods, herbs that you find particularly beneficial for supporting detoxification?
I have some favorites. I mean, and this isn't an herb. There's a spherical silver I use that
Mhm.
actually will kill mold and viruses and pathogens in the body, but
Is
it
this a
doesn't cause a
liquid?
herx.
A liquid you
A
put in
liquid.
your, yep, yep. Hmm.
Yeah, but it's most silvers on the market are colloidal and they just are
Colloidal. Mhm,
antibacterial. This is not.
mhm,
And it doesn't cause a herx. So if I can bring down all those loads and not cause a herx, people are going to like me better than me giving them herbs that are going to kill and you're going to have some symptoms,
mhm,
in the process of us
mhm.
killing. So I use something called, and I'm affiliated with it,
Sure.
called
Yes.
Avini Nano Silver, and then I give it with a zeolite, which mops up the heavy metals when we're killing pathogens. They
Mhm,
release heavy metals when they die. And I love their zeolite, and somebody could get somebody else's zeolite, but I haven't found another silver on the market that does what this silver does
mhm.
because it brings down the entire pathogen
You're
load.
right, they're
But
all colloidal silvers. When I think about it, they're all they're all
right,
colloidal.
so
Yeah.
it's just gonna focus on bacteria,
Mhm,
but I'm bringing down the parasite. I monitor people's loads, and
mhm.
all their loads are coming down. Now, I didn't have this product at the beginning of my journey. It would have saved me
Man,
a
I was gonna
lot
say,
of
what
stuff.
if you had?
Yeah, I would have, because I did a year of, like, parasite cleansing, no break. It was pretty intense because I had Bartonella really, really bad for, like, 20 something years, and the Bart was gone in 10 months using the regenerative approach, and I was eating, right, to
Mhm,
starve pathogens,
mhm.
eating high alkaline. But my website has some of my
Okay.
favorite tools, but everybody's so different. So I
Right.
like using the kinesiology to hone in on what does your body want, what's a
Mhm.
priority, what's beneficial. Because otherwise I'm guessing,
Yeah,
and
sure.
that's what most practitioners do. We're guessing, well, this is a good liver support. Let's take milk thistle.
Yeah.
my body's needed a ton of liver support, and milk thistle wasn't enough, and I've had to use some pretty high-end, expensive liver supports on my journey just because of how toxic I was and how much was leaving the body.
Well, and I think too, like kind of going back to your misdiagnosis, I think many times doctors, when they don't have an answer, man, well, this sounds kind of like this. We're just going to give that a label so we have something to call it. And,
Well, and I think we have to be careful too, because if you're dealing with a chronic illness and you wanna restore your health, th that's not where the conventional system is good.
right.
That's not what they're good at. They're gonna help you manage your symptoms. I had Graves' disease, I didn't mention that, like 3 years ago, and it was due to toxicity,
Hmm.
and I thought it was the Lyme, but it was really I was toxic, and nothing the doctors did for me was helping my heart rate come down. I didn't sleep for
Mm,
3 days at a time. It was toxicity, and I did research as a coach, did herbs, and then once I started detoxing, I mean, my blood work, the doctor was sorta like, "What did you do?"
mm,
Um, they were managing, right, the Graves, and they wanted to take out my thyroid
mm.
because of my symptoms, and I was like, "No, you're not
Nope.
taking out an organ. I wanna keep it there." And
It's
and
there
in
for a
reality,
reason.
if I had, that wouldn't have addressed the root.
Yeah.
The root was I was toxic, and it was the toxicity that was damaging my causing my thyroid to be hyper.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So then the cascade effect from taking that out, then you're on another medication, and then the
you're right,
impact,
you're
like
hypothyroid. No,
nothing.
and sometimes, like, people do the best they can, they just don't know, right?
Hmm.
They just don't know.
Hmm.
I had, a spinal cord injury, we thought, and I really look back and think, my spinal cord was 60% crushed. I think it was the inflammation, the toxicity, um, was causing all these issues in my vertebrae, and if I had known, I could have been addressing it. I didn't know. And it was getting to the point where the doctor thought I'd be paralyzed, and we went in and did surgery. And so I'm thankful for that surgery. But looking back, my whole spine was a mess. It's not a mess anymore. I had like
Hmm.
12 bulging discs. I think that was inflammation and toxicity, and it caused that misalignment in my spine. And that may not be the case for everybody, but it plays a really big role.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So this makes me think about how a question for you. I think I know the answer. How important do you think mindset is during this whole process?
Wow, it's huge. In fact, I mean, it starts with mindset.
Hmm.
It starts with wanting to get well.
Yeah.
And I want to say it starts with knowing you can get well. In my story, I didn't know I could get well until I found the regenerative approach and I started on day 3 to see those shifts. And then I thought, oh, I get it. My body's doing it. And so then there was no question in my mind the rest of the journey when I had crazy symptoms that my body was doing exactly what it needed to do to heal. But in the beginning, when I started certain modalities, I didn't know it had the potential to heal. So I
Hmm.
do find it's really important to know you can heal, but sometimes that comes along as you start to see things shifting. Um,
I
but
feel
and
like
also how
go. No, yeah, go.
no, and
This is good.
also just how you think about the healing.
Yeah.
Like, because I knew I've had pain much of the healing journey because I had a lot of pathogens in my spine. So
Hmm.
when they died, I just had symptoms down my legs and nerve pain, but I knew they were leaving. So I always was like I didn't like the pain, but I knew how to support my body with herbs for the pain, and I knew things were leaving, and I knew that was good. So that's how I thought about it. I didn't think something bad was happening. I wasn't scared.
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, good." But a lot of people get scared. They're like, "Oh my gosh, the Lyme's back." Every time they have a symptom, they're freaking out, and some of that is brain retraining, past trauma, like,
Yeah.
but sometimes I have to refer people out for some other support outside of just my
Hmm.
health
Sure.
coaching. Because if I can't shift their mindset, a lot of times it's related to past traumas and things, and I'll say, "I think you need to do some trauma work," or and I can spot it now in clients better than I could 4
Yeah.
years ago,
Sure.
but now it's very, very clear. Or there's a lot of nervous system dysfunction when people are toxic,
Mhm.
exposed to mold, have had trauma, where their brains and they're in fight or flight, and they can't heal, and
Mhm.
they're ruminating on symptoms, and so I
Mhm.
can spot that, and we can give them supports for the nervous system. But if they're not doing the supports and they're not willing to do the work, I can't. help them, because you've got to be willing to do the work to get better.
That's it, and it kinda goes back, you think about placebo. If we believe it, then and then if we know particularly we've got something that we can utilize, utilizing the mindset that placebo does to us, the body's gonna speed up the healing process because 'cause we're believing, supporting whatever we're putting into the body to cause it to heal. So that's important because, again, your cells are listening to those things
Oh, yeah.
in the
Oh,
dialogues.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
good stuff, girl. I like this a lot, and I think about too, like, the vast majority of clients that come to me that have had a lifelong journey battle, if you want to call it, with their weight loss. Almost every time it rolls back to something that happened when they were 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years
Mhm.
old. Every single time. And so we've got to address that first, or we're just going to end up back here again.
Yeah,
So
trauma is something I don't tend to do the trauma. I refer people out, but I can recognize it.
yeah,
But we all have trauma, right? We all have trauma in our life, but some more so than others.
yeah.
But I find that a lot of people who have extra weight, it's often there's so many aspects, but part of that can be waste, right? Toxic waste in the body.
Mhm.
Um, when people have that extra weight. My husband, metabolic syndrome from mold, could not lose weight, ate healthy, worked out with a trainer, could not. Finally, now, 4 years later, the pounds are coming off.
Well, it
But it's
makes
been
sense.
such a process, such a process, because the mold really gave him metabolic syndrome and
That's
insulin
it.
resistance, and um,
The body can't
yeah,
function correctly and utilize what it needs to do to shed the fat, the pounds and stuff because you had
right,
deficiencies.
right.
Other things were broken. So the systems weren't, the wheels weren't connecting because it was broken over here.
And when people are toxic, the body is protecting itself by holding on to those toxins in the fat cells
Mm,
instead of releasing them out into the system. So
mm,
the body won't release those toxins until it
mm,
feels safe that it can
mm,
as well. I mean, and weight isn't just
mm.
toxins, it can be hormones, it can be, lack of movement, it can be diet, but a lot of times
Wow.
weight I have found is not calories in, calories out at all. I mean, I was a dietitian and my weight's been all over the place on the
Mhm.
healing journey from being underweight to gaining weight on the healing journey. Even with Graves' disease, my weight went up, not down, which was so bizarre. But apparently not uncommon, for that to happen.
Yeah, in a perfect world, if you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight, right? In a
Right.
perfect scenario. Interesting what you said. It completely tracks. So what I tell clients quite a bit, and again, you can speak to this being a dietitian, is like they'll do some sort of diet, right? I'm gonna do um, whatever Atkins or whatever it is, and so we talk about that. So listen, your body's gonna hold on to what it's not getting enough of.
Mhm.
In simple terms, what you just said was eye opening to me. That the fat cell will hold on. The thing the body's trying to do to protect itself is actually harming itself, right? Holding on to that
Mhm.
pathogen so it doesn't release until it knows, right? So it keeps it in the body. That is very interesting. A very interesting insight.
Well, and with
Very interesting.
toxicity and mold, that's very common. I mean, some people lose weight with mold, but other people gain weight because the body's protecting itself, and other people they're
Wow.
malabsorbing. It just depends on the mold that they're exposed to and
I
how it
never,
impacts the body.
I never thought of that. I never thought you gonna get some referrals from me. This is very, very eye opening, and I didn't expect. I knew there would be some correlation because we're both in the health space, but not so closely aligned. That is very
Like,
interesting.
oh, good. I'm glad. I
Yeah,
knew
very
when we
interesting.
talked, we were aligned on a lot of
Yeah,
things.
I did too. So, what are some, outside of the regenerative stuff? What kind of things can people read, or their podcasts, or their books, or their things that people can watch that you recommend for people to want to learn more about functional health and chronic illness and things like that? What recommendations do you have?
I think it would depend what they want to learn about.
Hmm.
Um, because if they want to learn about mold or SIRS, um, I'd have one answer. But I mean, I think people should go to the podcast they gravitate toward because
Hmm.
what I have learned with health is there's not one way to heal.
Sure.
As much as I'd love to say that the regenerative approach is the only way, people heal other ways.
Right.
They heal doing things that I don't relate to,
Hmm.
um, but go toward what you gravitate toward.
What are your kind of go-tos? Like if you want to like, I mean, because you're an expert in this space, but if you're seeking out and listening to things on mold and SIRS or, regenerative health,
And
what are your
I
kind of your
mean,
go-tos?
yeah, I mean, mold, I tend to listen to some of the good mold inspectors out there, like just learning more about buildings like We
Hmm.
Inspect is I don't know if they have a podcast that
Mm.
they're on Instagram and social media. Michael Rubino are very big names um, in the mold world. If people want to learn more about mold, it's called the Toxic Mold Podcast by Steve Worsley.
Hmm.
I was on his podcast, but he's an inspector consultant in the mold world. There's so
Hmm.
many good things out there.
Are there
Right, a
any
little
like,
almost overwhelming how
yeah,
much is out there on the topic.
like other regenerative health practitioners that have, consistent content? Are there any that you like
Yeah,
to
so this
hear?
is what's interesting. My colleague and I, Bobby McGrath, and I both had SIRS. We wrote a course. We just launched it on
Oh, that's right. That's it.
navigating
Talk
mold
about
and
that.
SIRS.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just launched it, and it's been amazing. But we did it because we felt like there's nobody
Right.
talking about the regenerative approach to mold and SIRS. And we're
Mhm.
going to teach some of the other approaches. There are functional approaches, naturopathic, shoemaker. There's all these different approaches to treating mold, but there is no gold standard in the
Mm.
world of mold, right? There's no specific drug that everybody should get and can get better. It just doesn't work that way. And we thought we really want to put a course that shares what are the different approaches, but let's share the regenerative approach and the food piece that's getting missed and how you can use food to nourish and to alkalize and to
Mhm.
detox and to share some of the tools that we use as practitioners that most other practitioners don't use. And so we did a bunch of free webinars on mold. So anybody who wants the replay of that webinar, we talk about what are the symptoms, some first steps, like we said, the ERMI, how does mold impact the body, how does SIRS impact the body, in hopes that we would educate individuals and practitioners and recognizing it so people aren't going around being sick for 10 years, 5 years, 20 years because they're not addressing the root and part of the root being, being exposed to water damage and the course right now, we marketed it for practitioners, but it's actually a mix of practitioners and individuals with mold and SIRS. And then we're going to remarket just for clients,
Mhm.
and have group coaching for clients. But super excited because there's nothing out there talking about
When
the
did you
regenerative
release that?
approach.
When was that released?
This Monday will be 3 weeks ago.
Oh
The
my
course
gosh.
started.
What is it
Yeah.
what is it called?
It's called Navigating Mold and SIRS: Expert Insights for Practitioners, and we're teaching it live, but it's all digitally uploaded on a
Mhm.
platform, so people can come in anytime. They can watch the replays from the lives. They can watch our pre-recorded content. There's PDFs in every module. There's quizzes to reinforce
Mm.
learning. Nobody's graded. And we have a community platform where we can interact on the community. But doing it live, we're doing live Q&A at the end of
Yeah.
every session, which for me and my colleague is like my favorite
Sure.
part because people can ask questions. They can bring in labs. We
Mhm.
can talk about it. So I
So
don't know when
they can do live or asynchronous learning. So, uh, how long are the typical
the
live?
sessions.
Yeah.
It's about 90 minutes. The
Yeah.
teaching is an hour and we leave a half hour. We leave a half hour for questions. Some of the modules that are pre-recorded, we go over an hour, but when we
Sure.
have people live, we don't. So sometimes we pre-record and elaborate more on
And are
than
these
we do on
webinars,
the
like,
live.
when you do those, are they hosted through Zoom? Like, what platform are they?
Oh, so we have the course is housed in Go High Level, a white label
Mhm.
of Go High Level. So people pay to have access to the
Mhm.
course. The webinars we did were free, and so they're on my YouTube channel, and I can share
Yeah, we'll make
with
sure we
people if
link
they
all that
ask.
stuff up. Yeah, definitely, because this has really been Great.
There is a school, there's an Institute of Regenerative Nutrition and Detox, which Carrie Drinkwine owns. So a
Mhm,
lot of her content, right, talks about um, just the regenerative approach. It's not
mhm,
specific to mold, but that approach to restoring the body to health is really about removing interferences,
mhm,
making sure your environment is safe, restoring the gut. But that nourishing and alkalizing piece is the piece that I just find is missed,
mhm.
that I feel really, really passionate about. I mean, um, it's so cool that you can have the body release things. I've had gallstones leave. I didn't even have to do a liver flush because I've been alkalizing for so long.
Mhm,
Um, and I was a dietitian. I had no idea that the body could, kill pathogens based on alkalinity in the body. And I mean, and I still eat some foods that are pleasurable. It's not like
sure.
I eat very, very healthy. Um, but my husband brought me home a cookie yesterday and I had one cookie.
There you
You
go.
know,
I
I don't do
mean,
that often, but
that's the thing I think about that because I eat super clean throughout the week. I don't drink alcohol, none of that kind of stuff, and I'm like, you know, whatever day, whatever it is, I'll go have me some chocolate or what, you know what I mean? It's like
uh,
it's I am disciplined 99% of the time. I'm going to read.
right. That's
So,
yeah, no, that's I think most of us in the health industry we're a little over the top
yeah,
compared to most of my friends, but my colleagues were all sort of the same. We're always looking at labels and we're always being very conscious about what we put into our mouth.
absolutely. So, what is the most rewarding aspect about your work for you?
Yeah, the most rewarding is to watch people get their health back and to be able to do things they love and re-enter work and feel better.
Mhm,
And a- actually, you said one of my sickest people recently felt like she was dying and the highest levels of mold I have ever seen. And she trusted me. And when I said, get out, you need to get out today. And she had a trailer that she put on the property, got out. And we did everything, right? We assessed and supported all the pathways that needed support, um, and started to do stuff to bring down her loads. And she was playing pickleball 3 days later. Now, that's not every day for her because it's
yep,
been a roller coaster ride, but she was like, I actually have hope. I see now how long I've been in toxic mold. And, the journey has not been easy for her. She's about 8 months out working with me, but her loads are down about 50, 60%. Her body's
wow,
been just releasing a lot now that she's out, and she's getting out and playing pickleball and doing things. And then she has days where she has to stay inside and
mhm.
listen to her body and rest because it's detoxing and doing a lot of work. But I didn't know what to expect with her.
Many times that's all people need is one little glimpse into, "Oh, I
This is possible.
this is possible," and
Yeah,
that gives
this is
them that.
possible.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I love this conversation so much. I definitely I'm stating this publicly, we gotta have you back on because there's so much more we can talk about here. And I do collaboration podcasts as well where I'll have multiple guests on,
Oh,
and
neat.
I already know of another osteopathic physician that does similar, holistic type kind of things that I think would be an interesting conversation. And that one I would live stream so people could ask questions. This
Oh,
is
that would be
very,
fun.
yeah, this is very good. This is very good. So we're to the point of the rapid fire questions. Okay.
Oh, okay. I've never done that before.
Are you ready for these? So it's here's this you have to is the first thing that comes to your mind. So don't overthink it. Uh,
Uh-oh.
this
Okay.
is the toughest part of the show is the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So, are you ready? All right.
Ready.
What's your favorite healthy meal?
A bowl, like a bowl with a greens.
I love it. What's your go-to stress relief activity?
Oh, going out in nature.
Morning routine must have.
I do hydrogen water and a PEMF terahertz foot device.
Ah,
Like every morning, my feet are on that
yeah,
device, and I've got my hydrogen water.
nice. Favorite health book?
Oh, I don't think I have a favorite. I don't.
Best advice you've
Uh,
ever received?
sorry. She hears the guys working.
Ah,
Hey, hey, it's okay.
it's so funny. Best health advice you've ever received?
The nourishing and alkalizing changed my life. You know,
One word to describe your health journey.
a roller coaster ride, but amazing. I don't know. Roller coaster?
What's a place you still want to visit for your health or well-being?
Oh, I want to go on a river cruise to Europe.
Uh, who inspires you the most right now in the health and wellness space?
Hmm. I've never thought about it. Carrie Drinkwine does inspire me.
Mm.
The
What's
the
your
owner of the
yeah? What's your favorite thing about helping others reclaim their health?
just seeing people's joy
Mm.
and, returning to be able to participate in life.
Hmm. Define optimal health in one sentence.
Optimal health. I could, being able to functionally participate in life and have just joy and contentment
Hmm.
around that.
Morning person or night owl?
Right now, I'm neither. Going back to becoming a morning person I used to be, but in the healing journey, I was not.
So when you say morning person, what time do you get up as being a morning person?
Well, I
Curious.
used to get up and roll out of bed and go for a walk at 6. I'm waking up at 6 and I'm starting to go out for a walk, you know,
Yeah,
7:30.
yeah,
Um, but
nice.
needing less time to wake up in the morning.
Oceans or mountains?
Mountains, but I do miss the oceans living in Arizona and not having, because I grew up on the East Coast where
Sure.
the ocean
Yeah.
was pretty close.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, my superpower would be to give people a safe home,
Mm,
like a safe place to live and
mhm,
heal, because
mm.
that's a big problem. The biggest problem in the world of mold is people not being able to afford or find a safe place to heal. So there would magically be communities in every state,
Mm.
with safe housing for people to come and be able to start or finish their healing journey.
That's nice. So yours is much more selfless than mine. Mine, I just want to fly. I would like to be able to fly.
Oh, that would be
It.
really cool.
Yeah.
That would be, I love being up in the air in an airplane. Yeah, so being able to fly and see everything, that would
So
be
I am a
awesome. Well,
morning person. I'm a 4 a.m. guy. So we're going back to
oh
kind of
wow.
some of the questions. I'm 4 a.m. club. I get up. I'm at the gym. I love the morning stuff. There's so much mental. There's so much stuff I get done work mentally before the world wakes up. I've worked half of a day, so to speak, before everybody gets up and gets moving. It's just great.
You go to bed early because you get up that early?
So the latest I typically get in bed is about 10 p.m.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I rise at 4 and get my day going. So I love it. I love that quietness and the stillness of the morning time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I'm just not as coherent yet as I used to be in the morning. But today I woke up and I thought, wow, I went up and took another dog I was watching for a walk. And I thought, I was up, showered, and dressed like within an hour of being up, which normally I just have this whole routine of
Yeah.
self-care in the morning and quiet. And it felt really good to be up and dressed and ready because I knew I
Yeah.
had a busy day today.
Yeah, for sure. So so that rapid fire question it wasn't hard, was it? Wasn't too
It wasn't
difficult.
too bad.
It was too bad. So we already talked about um your course that you guys have released. And I'm gonna all these things that she shares here, we'll make sure we put in the show notes. But where can people find you?
Healthcoachingbyheather.com
Okay.
is, and my email is healthcoachingbyheather@gmail.com. So it's
And are
pretty easy.
all other like socials on that website? No? Okay. We'll
Oh, my socials are on my website, but they don't have the same name.
yeah,
Because when
got you.
I got started, I didn't know that. But all my socials are on my website.
Good. That's all we don't need to give out your social handles. They'll just can go to your site and link up
Yeah.
from there. So what this is kind of the time where we kind of wrap it up. What are your kind of parting words? What do you kind of want to leave with the audience before we sign off today?
I want to challenge people that if they're not feeling as well as they want to feel, that there's something missing, in what they're doing, and that may be nourishment, right? That may be toxicity, that may be their sleep routine or being out in nature, connection to community, but that getting older and feeling tired or not feeling well or achy, that's doesn't have to be that way.
Mm. I love that.
Doesn't have to be that way.
Well, Heather, I appreciate you being on. This was a pleasure. And to the audience, thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, this is always to your health and wealth and wellness. Bye now.